Hello gamers, this is Jason Walters in the IPR game room, and today we're going to be talking about Epidaya Ravichol's Wolfspell. Now Wolfspell is a really neat kind of product. It's very one of a kind, and I like to call these sorts of products artifact products. And what I mean by that is something like Quiet Year or Fall of Magic or Monty Cook's Invisible Sun, something that's just sort of an artifact that's not like any other game that you want to have in your game room just because of its physical presence. Now in the case of Wolfspell, it's actually a game presented in the form of like a 1970s epic vinyl album, like the sort of thing that for those of you who are older, like the Mahavishnu Orchestra or King Crimson or the Moody Blues or somebody like that, an art rock band, would have presented an album in. And one of the neat things about it, one of the many neat things about it, is you actually get a surprisingly large amount of text. You know, enough, I think the equivalent of like a small 30-page book, or maybe a little smaller, but it's here, and there's quite a lot of substance here. The basic idea of Wolfspell is that you are playing a group of humans who have been transformed into wolves by the Wolfspell. Now, you could play this with anywhere from 3 to 6 people, with one always being the game master, who is called Winter, because it all takes place in winter, as you can see, who is, of course, like most game masters, the environment, their adversaries, and everything else. And then the players, 2 to 5, play a pack. Now, there are 8 different wolf spells that you can have, and there are different ways under which your humans have been turned into wolves. And this is consistent throughout the game. You play wolves. You were humans, now you're wolves, and you stay that way till potentially the very end of the game, depending on how things turn out. So you're not werewolves. You don't shift back and forth. You're just wolves, and you're dealing with fulfilling your wolf spell, which is a quest or an adventure or a geas or a perilous journey or something like that in the form of wolves. Now, Epidaya is best known for his work as Worlds Without Master, and you can go to www.worldswithoutmaster to see a lot more of his work. He's fairly well known in the indie gaming community. And he has a lot of other great things that he's designed. Swords Without Master comes to mind. But Wolfspell is a particularly unique work in tone and feel. So the rules are actually kind of simple in concept, but expand outward nicely. So you have 2 dice that are just 2 6-sided dice. They both have to be distinguishable for one for another. One needs to be green and one needs to be white or something like that. And one is your wolf dice, and one is your blood dice. These represent the human self within you and the wolf self. Now, the wolf dice are affected by something called feral points, which you gain and lose throughout the game, including during your character creation, where your character picks one of 5 different wolf attributes that kind of determines what they'll be, and these are unique to that one character. You can't have 2 characters in the game with the same attribute. And then you have your blood dice, which are kind of fixed, how many blood dice points are involved in your character throughout the game, and that's your human self. That sort of rationality, ability to interact with civilization, knowing how towns work, that kind of thing. Whereas your wolf dice is about protect the pack, instinct, hunger, senses, that sort of thing. And to determine something in the game, you roll the 2 dice together, factor in the various modifiers, see which one is higher, and then for every one of your conceivable moves, and there are 4 different moves you can have in the game, you determine the result based on little scales under each move. It's very clever, and it has some crunch to it. For those of you that are not as big on free-form storytelling, it's not free-form storytelling. It has maybe a slight hint of Powered by the Apocalypse to it, though very slight. But yeah, your four moves are Behold the World, Say to Hunger, Bend the World to Your Will, which is very blood dice specific, and face the perilous, which, you know, human beings are much more willing to face the perilous than wolves. Wolves know better. So again, more blood points function better when facing the perilous. As a pack and a group, you go through the adventure together. You suffer damage, but it's basically narrative damage. It's not really reflected in points, but you can groom one another. A very important part of what your wolf does. Sort of heal up, though certain things never heal entirely, of course. And then at the conclusion of the game, you have the spell is lifted, the Wolfspell, and you get to see what the results are. And that again is determined by a roll of your blood and wolf dice, and that determines sort of the end, whether you are stuck as a wolf but wish you were human, and it's very melancholy. You return to being human but wish you were a wolf, and happier results as well, but also melancholy results. So it's very clever. I think this would take, depending on the group, 3 or 4 hours to play, 2 to 4 hours, depending on what your play style is, and whether you are like me, rather on the verbose side. It might take longer, but if you're more laconic and taciturn, it might be shorter. So the tone, one of the really neat things about this game, and you can see it from the artwork here, is that it's not very culturally specific, just specific to northern cultures, to Arctic Circle cultures. So it's not specifically Viking in its setting, but it could be. It's not specifically Inuit or Native American, but it could be. It could be all these things. Could be Finnish, could be Slavic, could be Mongolian. All these things are sort of presented visually and hinted at visually in the design. So it's really neat in that you could kind of put into that what you would like. You're not forced into it culturally. It is yet, like most Artifact products, one of these products where it's visual presentation, and you see this very strongly in something like Fall of Magic or BFF or Quiet Year. Its presentation is suggestive, and it's epic, as is, you know, like presenting it as an epic art rock album. Very epic. So highly recommended, and you can get Wolfspell from Indie Press Revolution at our website with a link listed below. Also, of course, follow us on the social medias, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or follow our newsletter. And remember, gamers, when hunting is a pack, don't face the perilous.